starting with 1 million luck points. Chapter 301, Judging the Customers. I got it. Zhou Hao did not refuse. Although he did not lack money, he did not want to pressure Su Ling. After that, he planned to cut the rare level energy bar into small cubes of 1 centimeter for Su Ling to use as a colored energy crystal. The value of a rare level energy bar was not something that a platinum level energy bar could compete with. Let's go. Su Ling's pretty face was also brimming with a smile. Because she had bought 15 synthesized crystals for her family this time, her family had given her a huge reward. Su Ling, who was originally rich and beautiful, now became even richer. Actually, there's no need for us to go to Star Ring. We can just go to the points area. There's also something good there. Just as he was about to enter Star Ring, Zhang Yi hesitated again. On the commercial street of the 7th elite base, one could only buy everything with martial artist points. The commercial street they were currently on did not exactly belong to the 7th elite base. It was only under the supervision and surveillance of the 7th elite base and was not the 7th elite base's property. Let's go. Since we're already here, let's go in and take a look. Zhou Hao patted Zhang Yi on the shoulder. Since they were already here, wouldn't it be good to go in and take a look? That's true. Zhang Yi thought for a moment and nodded. The few of them immediately entered Star Ring Technology Experience Center. Gentlemen, what do you need? A very polite and enthusiastic manager quickly welcomed them. Among these 5 people, one was the eldest daughter of the Yun family and Su Ling was even more impressive. She was the eldest daughter of the Su family and definitely had the ability to spend. As for Zhou Hao and the other 2, the manager directly ignored them. Since he did not know them, it meant that he was just a nobody and not a descendant of an aristocratic family. We need some good laser weapons on the battlefield. Do you have any recommendations? What surprised the manager was that among the 5 of them, Zhou Hao was the one who spoke. The remaining 4 even seemed to take him as their leader. Seeing this, the female manager directly wiped her eyes. Could it be that she had failed to recognize a big shot? Was this young man even more impressive than Miss Yun and Miss Su? Yes, please follow me. The female manager brought Zhou Hao and the others to shop first. As for Zhou Hao's identity, she could slowly figure it out. This is a trademark 2 sensory grenade, a special kind of mechanical weapon. If they're in the center of the explosion, the master level foreign races will also be severely injured. Buy 10 and get 1 free. If you need any, I suggest you buy 10. With that said, the female manager smiled at Zhou Hao and the others. She had many objectives. Firstly, she wanted to test the financial strength of Zhou Hao and the others. Secondly, she wanted to see if she could get lucky this time. Do you have any test footage? After thinking for a moment, Zhou Hao decided to look at the test footage. Of course, he could also test it on the spot. Yes, but the price of such a trademark 2 sensory grenade is 400,000 yuan per grenade. The female manager's meaning was very obvious. This thing was a little expensive. 2 trademark 2 sensory grenades was worth an entire house. That's fine. Zhou Hao said casually. Currently, money was just a string of numbers to him. Only colored energy crystals were worth anything to him. Alright, this is the test footage. You can take a look. If you want to buy it, you can use the simulation testing device to conduct an in-depth test. The female manager was already relieved. Zhou Hao's tone was very calm. It seemed that he did not care about the 400,000 yuan at all. 400,000 yuan. Zhang Yi was secretly speechless. Because of Zhou Hao, he already had 30 million yuan on him. However, for Zhang Yi, who had been living on the poverty line for a long time, a trademark 2 grenade worth 400,000 yuan was still an astronomical luxury item. Tisk tisk, can you earn so much from killing a master-level foreign race? Yuan Cheng was somewhat curious. After all, this trademark 2 sensory grenade seemed to only be useful for the foreign races at the master level. That depends on what kind of foreign race they kill. Moreover, the strength of the trademark 2 sensory grenade lies in the superposition of the electric field. If 10 trademark 2 sensory grenades explode in the same area, the electromagnetic explosion will be very terrifying. Even a grandmaster won't be able to escape unscathed. After all, Wang Yun was the sales manager of Star Ring Technology. Now that she was promoting products, she naturally could do it easily. Chapter 302, Large Purchase. In that case. After Zhou Hao heard this, he immediately nodded. If that was the case, such a sensory grenade was not bad. Of course, Wang Yun had also said that one sensory grenade was useless. One needed at least 10. I want 10. To their surprise, Zhang Yi was the first to decide to buy the sensory grenades. Although he felt that it was extremely expensive, he still decided to buy it. He might not be able to get his money's worth if he used it on a master-level foreign race being, but if he really killed a Grand Master-level foreign race expert or encountered a heavily injured supernatural race expert, it would definitely be worth it. I want 10 too. Yun Yan pondered for a moment and also decided to buy it. This kind of sensory grenade was easy to use and the price was also considered appropriate. It could be considered one of the most cost-effective technological weapons. Soon, Zhou Hao and the others decided to buy it. Do you need to test it on the simulator? After selling 50 sensory grenades at once, Wang Yun couldn't stop smiling. Is there a problem with this sensory grenade? Seeing Wang Yun smile so widely, Zhou Hao's heart skipped a beat as he asked with a strange expression. 4 million yuan was nothing to him now. Although selling goods was worth being happy about, Wang Yun was smiling too happily now, making him feel like he had been cheated. This. After Zhou Hao asked, Wang Yun immediately felt somewhat embarrassed. Actually, there's nothing wrong with this kind of sensory grenade. However, to a master-level martial artist, this thing is too expensive. Ordinary master-level martial artists can't afford it at all. To grandmasters and even supernatural martial artists, the sensory grenade is basically useless. Therefore, after the research and development was completed, the sales of the sensory grenades had always been poor, and the price kept decreasing. Wang Yun did not hide anything and told the truth in detail. Because there are more sensory grenades piled up. If you guys buy 20 each, I can give you an additional 4. Including the previous freebie, I'll give you a total of 5 extra. Once these martial artists went on the battlefield, it would become a matter of life and death. Her conscience made her decide to tell the truth. Hearing Wang Yun say this, Zhang Yi and the others looked at each other. This discount was already quite high. The original price of 400,000 per sensing grenade had been reduced to 320,000 per grenade. After saying this, Wang Yun looked at Zhou Hao and the others expectantly. If Zhou Hao and the others were willing to buy, she could actually continue to reduce the price. Then let's each get 20. Zhang Yi looked at Zhou Hao and the others and said uncertainly. Sure. Yuan Cheng nodded. He was already very satisfied with this price. We're fine with that too. Su Ling and Yun Yan nodded. The sensory grenade was not very useful for grandmasters and supernatural martial artists, but it was very useful for them. Are there any other technological weapons recommendations? Zhou Hao casually put away the 25 sensory grenades and continued to ask Wang Yun. There are many technological weapons in Star Ring technology that are suitable for you. I have a batch of new laser cannons. Do you want to take a look? Wang Yun thought for a moment and said slowly after she assessed the spending power of Zhou Hao and the others. Laser cannon? Which one is it? Zhou Hao had fought the machine race many times. The most common attack method of the machine race was the various laser hand cannons. Zhou Hao was immediately interested when he heard that Wang Yun also had a laser cannon. Su Ling and the others also revealed curious expressions. Come with me. Because they had already reached a deal, Wang Yun was in a very good mood. She immediately brought Zhou Hao and the others into the training hall behind. As soon as they entered, Zhou Hao and the others saw many other students. Some were elites from the same batch as them, and some were senior students. These are the latest batch of laser weapons from Star Ring Technology. Wang Yun brought Zhou Hao and the others to a shooting range of an experience hall. There were all kinds of laser weapons there. How cool! Yuan Cheng looked at these cool and technological weapons in front of him and felt that this trip had not been in vain. How expensive! Zhang Yi's personality did not change much. He paid attention to the price as soon as he arrived. After all, not long ago, the 10 million yuan they had on them seemed to have all been spent. What kind of gun is this? Chapter 303, You're good at shooting. Zhou Hao picked up a gun, even though most laser weapons here were hand cannons. But now he was holding a pistol. This is an M21 automatic pistol. It can be used to load conventional bullets, as well as laser bullets and other special bullets. This is a mithril bullet. It's very effective against the blood race beings and is very accurate. Wang Yun took out a box of mithril bullets and handed it to Zhou Hao. Zhou Hao's gaze was also attracted by the bullets in front of him. This box of bullets was placed in a beautiful silver box. So light. Zhou Hao immediately said after picking up a mithril bullet. Compared to ordinary bullets, this mithril bullet is only a third as heavy. But its toughness and strength are stronger than ordinary bullets. Zhou Hao looked at the bullet in his hand that looked like a work of art with a circle of patterns and found it very interesting. That's right. It's precisely because of this advantage that the mithril bullet has a longer range, higher accuracy, and stronger penetration and lethality. Previously, Zhou Hao and the others had all bought the sensory grenades. This time, when they bought firearms, their preferences were different. Zhou Hao was very interested in pistols and other firearms. This time, he planned to buy a pistol and a sniper rifle. Can I try out the gun? After playing with the M21 in his hand for a while, Zhou Hao decided to get one. Sure, but this kind of mithril bullet costs 10,000 each. You'll get 5 for free if you buy a gun. If you don't buy a gun, you'll have to pay for them separately. Wang Yun placed the incomplete mithril bullet into the magazine and handed it to Zhou Hao. Zhou Hao immediately took the M21 automatic pistol and arrived at the shooting range. A martial artist's 5 senses were very heaven-defying and they also had incomparably powerful mental strength. After simple training, they could basically hit the target perfectly. Of course, ordinary firearms were already very difficult to use against the foreign races and were not very useful. Only these technological energy weapons had certain effects. Bang! With a deep muffled sound, a bullet instantly flew out and killed the model 300 meters away. It's that easy to use. Yuan Cheng was happy after seeing this. Although this gun was very expensive, the effect was very good. You're good at shooting. Wang Yun looked at Zhou Hao in surprise and praised him sincerely. When the mithril bullet was fired, the recoil was very strong. However, after Zhou Hao fired just now, his hand did not move at all. What other special bullets are there? Zhou Hao was very satisfied with this gun and immediately asked about other special bullets. There are also sulfur bullets targeted at the insect race, as well as flame bullets and ice bullets. Wang Yun was now very enthusiastic. She had already seen through Zhou Hao's extraordinariness and had basically confirmed the spending ability of these little guys. Give me one of each. Zhou Hao did not try them one by one. He just needed to look at the tutorial footage and would directly try them on the battlefield. Originally, everyone had come here to buy a laser cannon. In the end, only Su Ling bought a laser cannon while the others bought firearms. I've spent 20 million of the 30 million just now. Yuan Cheng also felt a little heartache. Although he had obtained the 30 million yuan relatively easily, spending 2/3 of it so quickly was still very painful. Zhang Yi was slightly better than him. Up until now, he had spent 18 million. I still have to buy some food. Compared to weapons and equipment, food is very cheap. With that said, Yanran began to think about where to buy food. I don't need food. I want to buy some cold weapons and other resources. Zhang Yi looked at Zhou Hao and the others apologetically. He was used to being frugal. At this moment, he even felt that buying special battlefield food was a waste. In terms of food, he could completely restrain himself. Alright, let's wander around freely next and see what we need. Zhou Hao decided to let the group travel separately. After all, everyone had different needs. The commercial streets of the 7th Elite Base are divided into inner and outer street. We've already walked around the outer street. Now, we can go to the inner street to take a look. After the others left, Zhou Hao thought for a moment and decided to take a look at the inner street. Compared to the outer street, the inner street were even more bustling. Swipe your card, 100 points. Before Zhou Hao could enter the inner street, he was stopped by a young man. Chapter 304, Bounty Token? Swipe my card. Zhou Hao was stunned. Did one have to spend money to enter the inner street? Don't tell me this is your first time coming to the inner street. The young man who stopped Zhou Hao said with a strange expression. Judging from Zhou Hao's appearance, he shouldn't be a new student who had just arrived. Thus, the young man was quite confused. It is. As he spoke, Zhou Hao also took out his identity card and swiped it on the machine. He had already seen that the others had to swipe their cards to enter. After Zhou Hao swiped his card, the points balance on his identity card also appeared. Damn, why do you have 100,000 points? This young man who had stopped Zhou Hao was actually a senior student from the 7th Elite Base. The 7th Elite Base was usually built in 4 years. After 4 years, many elites would be arranged to different places. Of course, there were also some elites who chose to stay in the inner street of the 7th Elite Base. Is there a problem? Zhou Hao did not have any concept of these points. All along, his points had always been there. This was the first time he had used points since coming to the inner street. Of course there's a problem. You're just a new student who has been in the 7th Elite Base for less than a year. How could you have so many points? As soon as this young man finished speaking, many people around cast shocked gazes. Zhou Hao's identity card was still a first-year elite's identity card. On his identity card, there was only the pattern of a sharp sword. I killed some foreign races and completed some missions. Oh, I think I also got rewarded for always being ranked first in the end-of-month competition. Zhou Hao did not know where he got so many points from. After swiping his card, he walked into the mysterious inner street like the others. Compared to the outer street, this place was very lively. Not only were there merchants selling all kinds of items here, but there were also students setting up stalls here. Zhou Hao looked around and did not see what he wanted. It was not until they arrived at a shop at the corner that Zhou Hao's gaze changed. What do you want to buy? Seeing Zhou Hao come over, a middle-aged man with thin hair said impatiently. He was reading a newspaper in the shop. I'm just browsing. Zhou Hao did not know whether to laugh or to cry. No wonder this shop was so unpopular on the inner street. The owner of this shop was really too unenthusiastic. Go ahead. Browse as much as you want. Although he was not enthusiastic, this strange uncle was still very generous. Bounty token. Zhou Hao thought that the uncle was reading the newspaper just now, but now, he saw that the man was actually looking at the bounty token again. On the bounty token, there were usually only 2 types of targets. One was the defected martial artists of planet Earth, and the other was the foreign races. Now, the bounty token in this strange uncle's hand was the bounty for the defected martial artists of the various countries on planet Earth. Moreover, the price of the bounty was not low. Hehe, it's useless for you to look at this. Hurry up and browse the other things if you want something. Sensing Zhou Hao's gaze, Nangang Chen said indifferently. What is this? Zhou Hao did not argue with Nangang Chen over the bounty token and instead asked him a question. This is a book about Genesis runes. Genesis runes originate from the spatial rift, and some humans and foreign races know about them. As for the origin of Genesis runes, no one knows. With that said, Nangang Chen continued to look at his bounty token. Did you kill the targets on the bounty to get them back? Zhou Hao was now a quasi-heaven realm expert, so he naturally knew that Nangang Chen, who was sitting beside him, was a peak 8th grade supernatural martial artist. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. Among the many supernatural experts, Nangang Chen was the least arrogant. A peak level 8th grade supernatural expert had actually opened such a small shop on the inner street. I don't have 500,000 points. Will you be willing to sell it for 100,000 points? Zhou Hao picked up the Genesis Rune introductory book. He had been attracted by it when he passed by just now. No, but you can buy it on credit or exchange it with something else. Nangang Chen refused without thinking. Although he had opened a small shop just to sell some trash that he did not need. However, he was still unwilling to do a losing transaction. Are these enough? Zhou Hao thought for a moment and also took out some foreign race materials from his spatial device. It's enough, but the materials here don't seem to be something you can obtain, right? In Nangang Chen's opinion, Zhou Hao was only a peak level master. There were some materials here that even Grand Masters could not obtain. Well, as long as it's enough. I'll take this book. Zhou Hao took the Genesis Rune introductory book on the shelf and left. Interesting. Watching Zhou Hao leave, Nangang Chen casually said before ignoring him. Chapter 305, You can always escape if you can't defeat the opponent. Half a day passed quickly. When Zhou Hao appeared on the training ground again, some students had already arrived. Yuan Cheng, why do you have a smug expression? After Yun Yan and Su Ling walked over holding hands, they immediately teased. Hi. Zhang Yi also sighed faintly. He was really somewhat convinced by Yuan Cheng. This guy had previously bought a second-hand transport vehicle on the outer street. On the battlefield, exoskeletons and mechas were very useful. However, he really did not know what use such a clumsy vehicle had. I bought a vehicle. It's a mountain rainforest tank. When we get to the battlefield, we can escape even if we can't defeat them. Yuan Cheng was now relieved. It was as if he was already in an invincible position after obtaining this tank. It seems like you can always come up with something new. Zhou Hao also did not expect Yuan Cheng to get a tank. What Ji Yufan is carrying on his back? Yun Yan's gaze looked in the direction of Ji Yufan. After looking over, she was immediately displeased. Liu Zhan, who had a good relationship with them not long ago, was actually together with Ji Yufan now. It should be some kind of technological weapon. Zhou Hao looked at it and said casually, not caring. Humph. Zhou Hao, you better not die on the battlefield this time. Let's see who gets the most points this time. At this moment, Ji Yufan turned around and looked at Zhou Hao. Get lost. Zhou Hao's expression did not change at all and even ignored Ji Yufan. However, he still felt that there was something wrong with Ji Yufan. Gather around and report your numbers. Get ready to board. After everyone arrived one after another, Instructor Yang Hui appeared in front of everyone. 1, 2, 3. A moment later, Zhou Hao and the others finished reporting. However, Instructor Yang Hui did not let them board any vehicles. Instead, he looked at the other two groups of experts that were gathering and said, those are your senior brothers and sisters from the first and second years. This time, they will also enter the edge of the battlefield with you. Now, Zhou Hao already knew that there were other training areas in the 7th elite base. People like them belonged to the first year. Hearing this news, many people's eyes lit up. In that case, could they work with these seniors? They looked at the seniors and saw that they were all master-level experts. However, when everyone looked over, they also saw that most of the seniors also had bitter expressions. Clearly, these seniors were also reluctant to go to the edge of the battlefield to train. It was not until the other two groups of experts were also gathered that 3 defensive military combat vehicles arrived. Then, Zhou Hao and the others also began to get on the vehicle. This doesn't seem like the direction towards the 7th spatial rift. In the car, Zhang Yi said curiously. Although he could not see the situation outside, he had a good sense of direction. Therefore, he was very sure that the combat vehicle they were riding was not heading towards the 7th spatial rift at all. Where are we going? Su Ling also looked puzzled. She really wanted to know where they were going. This seems to be heading to the 12th spatial rift. Zhou Hao sensed the direction they were heading in and said uncertainly. The direction they were heading towards now was not the 7th spatial rift. There were only 2 spatial rifts they could travel to in this direction. That was the 13th spatial rift and the 12th spatial rift. However, the battle in the 13th spatial rift had already ended. Judging from the time, it was likely that there would be a battle plan in the 12th spatial rift soon. This time, everyone is heading to the 12th spatial rift. Other than killing as many foreign races as possible, we also have to collect as much information as possible. At this moment, Instructor Yang Hui's voice sounded in everyone's ears. Zhang Yi and the others looked at Zhou Hao in surprise. They did not expect Zhou Hao to be right. This time, they were really going to the 12th spatial rift. The 12th spatial rift was not far from the 7th spatial rift. If they rode the Sky Fighter, they would arrive in at most an hour. Now that they were riding such a clumsy combat vehicle, it was obvious that they would not arrive for half a day. At this moment, many students had already begun to sleep to conserve their energy. On the battlefield, they probably will not have much time to sleep for the next 30 days. Zhou Hao was not idling on the bus either. He had already begun to use his mental strength to check the Genesis Rune introductory book he had bought not long ago. This was the first time he had heard of such a thing. Zhou Hao's expression could not help but turn a little strange when he used his mental strength to check the Genesis Rune introductory book. Chapter 306, Genesis Rune Introductory Book. Because the inside of the car was dark and the air was not flowing, at this moment, Su Ling had already fallen asleep leaning on Zhou Hao's shoulder. Su Ling was his girlfriend, so it was very normal for her to fall asleep leaning on his shoulder. However, it was not just Su Ling leaning on his shoulder. Yun Yan, who had also fallen asleep, was also leaning her head on his shoulder. Fortunately, the interior of the car was dark and nothing could be seen clearly. Otherwise, there would have been a huge misunderstanding. Zhou Hao did not think much of it and continued to use his mental strength to study the Genesis Rune introductory book. The reason why he had discovered this book previously was completely because when he passed by, his Danshan jumped and resonated with this book. All across the 7 elite bases, vehicles were departing to the 12th spatial rift. This time, although the number of participants from each base was different, everyone was still competing with each other. I don't need to get good results this time. I just want to return alive. Yuan Cheng expressed that he was going to be a slacker this time. His greatest hope was that he could return alive. I also hoped to return alive. It was rare for the others to not tease him this time. Even Zhang Yi felt the same way. The areas with the highest mortality rate among the Huaxia martial artists and even planet Earth martial artists were the various battlefields at the spatial rifts. More than 99% of the martial artists died on the frontline battlefield. Zhou Hao, you don't seem afraid at all. Yun Yan, who was beside Zhou Hao, had already woken up. After waking up, her pretty face was red. Although she usually dressed very casually, she was not a casual girl. However, in such a military transport vehicle, the space was too small and the air was not circulating very well, making people sleepy. Therefore, she had unknowingly fallen asleep just now. What was even more embarrassing was that she had actually fallen asleep leaning on Zhou Hao. Although it was sometimes common for friends to steal each other's boyfriends, she did not have the intention to snatch Zhou Hao from Su Ling. I'm all right. Zhou Hao was very calm. Just as everyone was feeling very nervous and afraid, he said something so casual. He was really asking for a beating. It was as if he was forcefully posturing. However, as the strongest quasi-heaven realm martial artist in Huaxia, he really did not have any pressure to enter the edge of 12th spatial rift. Don't speak and rest well. After entering the battlefield, it's very normal for you to not sleep for a few days and nights. Hearing someone whisper, Instructor Yang Hui reminded. For a moment, the car fell silent again. Indeed, I don't understand it at all. Zhou Hao smiled bitterly. The Genesis Rune introductory book was simply too mysterious and complicated to understand. He knew every word in the book, but when he connected them, he was dumbfounded. Unknowingly, the car finally stopped. Everyone shook their sleepy heads and looked over. They realized that it was already nighttime. We're here. Get off. Instructor Yang Hui got everyone to alight in an orderly manner. Roar. Zhou Hao had just gotten off the military transport combat vehicle when he heard a beast roar from the distant battlefield. Although it was very far, he could still see that the 12th spatial rift was not simple. On the city wall of the 12th defense line, there was actually a heaven realm expert holding down the fort. Is he nurturing the experts of the second team? Zhou Hao had participated in the battle in the 13th spatial rift before, so he quickly thought that this was the Green Cloud Division nurturing the experts of the second team. I don't see Ling Shuiying or the supernatural experts I'm familiar with. I wonder if the Green Cloud Division is planning to nurture 2 more teams just to be safe. Zhou Hao was a quasi-heaven realm martial artist and knew the front-line matters. The other students alighted with solemn expressions and observed their surroundings very vigilantly. This is already the edge of the battlefield. Dangerous things can happen at any moment. Students will not be able to exceed the red line behind you within the next 30 days. Those that do will be considered to have forfeited. Your communication bracelet will record your points in real time. Be careful. This is a joint competition between the 7 elite bases. Once you enter the top 20, there will be many benefits. The exact rules will be sent to your communication bracelet one after another. You can now move freely. After Instructor Yang Hui finished speaking, his figure flashed and disappeared from the spot. Chapter 307, by Yanran's cousin. Hi, supernatural experts are indeed carefree. They come and go without a trace, appearing and disappearing unpredictably. Yuan Cheng looked at the direction where Instructor Yang Hui had disappeared in envy. Although they had also gradually become master-level martial artists, they were still far from becoming Grand Master-level martial artists or even supernatural-level martial artists. What's the use of being envious of others? We have to take action ourselves and become stronger than them. Yun Yan puffed her cheeks and said half-jokingly. I received news that students from all 7 of the elite bases are participating this time. Basically all first and second year students have been sent from the various elite bases. The first elite base is relatively special. There are also 10 third-year seniors participating. However, they're a rescue team and won't participate in the rankings. Su Ling looked at her communication bracelet as she spoke. Has someone already entered the battlefield to kill the foreign races? Zhang Yi asked in surprise. Soon, a name appeared on the ranking list. First elite base, Wang Yingke, 7 points. It seemed that this elite named Wang Yingke was the first to enter the battlefield. He's really bold. The others are still observing the environment. He has already entered the battlefield. Yuan Cheng smiled bitterly, but he quickly figured it out. This guy was clearly trying to win. After Wang Yingke, there were indeed more and more names. Now, on the rankings, the top 100 slots in the ranking were instantly filled. Then, many names began to fluctuate. The front-line defense line battlefield is divided into 4 areas. The outer area, the middle area, the inner area, and the core area. I suggest that we split up when we're in the outer area. We'll gather when we enter the middle area. How about that? With that said, Su Ling looked at Zhou Hao and the others. Sure. Zhou Hao did not have any objections. He had already sensed it clearly. This area was a challenge for everyone. It was difficult, but there was no extremely fatal danger. Me too. Zhang Yi nodded. In the beginning, it was good for them to travel separately to familiarize themselves with the environment. I'm fine with that. Yuan Cheng and Yun Yan quickly agreed. Bang! After the few of them separated, Zhou Hao's aura shook, and a black beetle was killed by his aura. Points plus 100. After casually killing this beetle, the notification of points plus 100 appeared on his communication bracelet. It could be seen that the data entry function of this communication bracelet was very good. Just nice, let's try the little thing we bought previously. After failing to grasp the knowledge in the Genesis Rune introductory book, Zhou Hao felt that it was not bad to try the things he had bought at Star Ring Technology. I don't need the sensory grenades for the time being. These are all weak foreign races that aren't even at the master level. These foreign races should have been deliberately placed here for us to practice. Zhou Hao pondered as he took out the automatic pistol. An upgraded version of the M21 automatic pistol. Not bad. When Zhou Hao took out the automatic pistol, a sweet-looking girl with a single ponytail and glasses appeared not far from Zhou Hao. Zhou Hao had long seen this girl, but he did not care. He also saw an automatic pistol in the girl's hand. It was different from ordinary silver and black. It was also not a rare gold color, but a special rose gold color. Clearly, this was a custom-made gun. Although Star Ring Technology was a commercial company, it was still not easy to get customized firearms made in Star Ring Technology. My name is Bai Bingbing and I'm Bai Yanran's cousin. Do you want to get to know me? Bai Bingbing had only passed by just now and only decided to linger when she saw Zhou Hao. Previously, she had heard her cousin Bai Yanran mention Zhou Hao and even heard of Zhou Hao's heartless iron hand. She found it very interesting. Now, seeing that Zhou Hao was also a martial artist who liked guns, she became even more interested in him. If one did not like firearms, they would not spend 10 million yuan to buy such an energy gun. My name is Zhou Hao. Zhou Hao did not care about Bai Bingbing coming over. At this moment, he had already taken out the secret silver bullets and began to fill them. Chapter 308, Using the sensory grenade to get to the top 100. That seems sort of wasteful. The foreign races here are all very ordinary foreign races. We can just use ordinary energy bullets. As Bai Bingbing spoke, she handed Zhou Hao a magazine. Energy bullets. Zhou Hao was immediately dumbfounded. It seemed that manager Wang Yun from Star Ring Technology was indeed a scammer. Previously, when she introduced this automatic pistol to him, she had only given him the standard bullets, which were bullets used to fill gunpowder, and special bullets that were expensive. He did not know that there were such energy bullets. Those are your resources. I won't take them. Zhou Hao took the magazine and played with it for a while before returning it. This time, he had to survive on the battlefield for 30 days. He was a quasi-heaven realm expert hidden among a group of newbies and had nothing to worry about. It was hard to say for the others. If anything happened to Bai Bingbing because of this magazine, he would be in deep trouble. Consider it as a gift. I've stored combat resources in my spatial device for half a year. Bai Bingbing said indifferently. All right, I'll give you something too then. Hearing Bai Bingbing say this, Zhou Hao did not refuse. Oh? What do you want to give me? Bai Bingbing's interest was piqued at this moment. This kind of ordinary energy bullet was not expensive. Bang! 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 At this moment, Zhou Hao suddenly raised his gun and fired 9 consecutive shots. Then, 9 fist-sized golden lantern fruits fell from a 50-meter tall tree. After the plants on planet Earth mutated, the originally tall Heaven Ascension tree became even taller. There were many types of Heaven Ascension trees. For example, the Heaven Ascension tree beside them was called the Golden Lantern tree. Wow! Seeing that Zhou Hao had actually used an energy bullet to pick the fruits, Bai Bingbing was convinced. These energy bullets were used to deal with the foreign races. In the end, Zhou Hao actually used them to pick fruits. Speaking of which, your marksmanship is pretty good. Although she was complaining, Bai Bingbing still approved of Zhou Hao's marksmanship. At this distance, if one did not have good marksmanship, one would not be able to pluck the Golden Lantern tree's fruits. Originally, Zhou Hao was prepared to travel alone, but now, Bai Bingbing was following him. Bang! On the way, Zhou Hao kept firing. As he used his gun, he killed many foreign races with a single shot. The greatest benefit of a gun is that it doesn't require blood essence energy. However, there's also a disadvantage. It's easy to attract the other foreign races if you cause too much commotion. Bai Bingbing looked at Zhou Hao helplessly. Zhou Hao had killed happily along the way, but the commotion he caused was too huge, and it quickly attracted many foreign races around. Although the strength of these foreign races was not much, there were still a lot of them. Let's run. Stop using your gun, Bai Bingbing said with a headache. Although they had entered the battlefield to kill these foreign races. However, there were too many foreign races here now. It was better to leave first. Perfect timing. Zhou Hao had no intention of leaving. No, we still have to stay here for 30 days. Are you going to use up all your resources in a day? Bai Bingbing really did not know if Zhou Hao was really stupid or not. He had actually been using silver bullets along the way. However, with the high price of the silver bullets, Zhou Hao probably did not have much. This is. Just as Bai Bingbing was thinking this, she suddenly saw Zhou Hao take out the sensory grenade. Bai Bingbing's first reaction was, damn, someone really bought this thing. However, seeing more and more low-level foreign races gathering around, Bai Bingbing could not help but be dumbfounded. Damn! In this situation, the usually useless sensory grenade would actually be very useful. The biggest problem with the sensory grenade was that after it exploded, it would continually increase its power. At other times, the foreign races that had been hit would have long fled. Now that so many foreign races were gathered together and there were more and more of them, there was no need to worry about wasting the effect. Boom! Indeed, at this moment, Zhou Hao attacked. Bang! Chi! 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 After an explosion, blue electric arcs immediately spread out among the many foreign races. As the power of the lightning increased, many foreign races were directly burned to ashes. With this sensory grenade, Zhou Hao directly entered the top 100. He was also the first-year student from the 7th elite base to have entered the rankings. Chapter 309, Isn't this cheating? Swoosh! At this moment, Zhou Hao also attacked with the second sensory grenade. Wow! Zhou Hao is on the rankings. Yanran, who was beside Su Ling, said in surprise. This time, there were a total of 21 batches from the 7 elite bases. There were 40 to 50 students per batch. Almost 1,000 people entered the outer area of the battlefield, meaning that only the top 10% could get into the rankings. The rankings this time are really too unfriendly to us. It's very difficult for Zhou Hao to get on the rankings. Su Ling also smiled bitterly. After all, there were still the second-year students. Their talent was not inferior to theirs and they had cultivated for longer than them. These students were the true protagonists of this training. It was not just the first-year students from the 7th elite base. Not many first-year students from the other 6 elite bases were on the list either. Damn, Zhou Hao's ranking has increased again. Yanran spoke again. Zhou Hao's points were suddenly raised by 1. Wow, how did he do that? Su Ling was also somewhat curious as to how Zhou Hao did it. However, they did not know where Zhou Hao was at all. They could only ask him when they gathered again. Damn it! In another direction, Ji Yufan, who was still working hard to get on the rankings, was so furious that his face turned livid. Zhou Hao's points had actually soared directly. This was clearly abnormal. Looks like luck was on Zhou Hao's side again. During this period of time, Ji Yufan had already thought carefully. Zhou Hao's strength was not bad, but more importantly, he was lucky. Most of the time, it was not that he was inferior to Zhou Hao, but that his luck was not as good as Zhou Hao's. Ji Yufan could not help but look at his communication bracelet again and was immediately even more displeased. Zhou Hao had actually jumped from 99th place to 93rd. Of course, Ji Yufan was not the only one who was shocked and displeased. Everyone on the battlefield was very focused on the rankings. For a moment, everyone's gazes were naturally attracted to Zhou Hao. The current situation was obvious at a glance. The hunting rankings this time were occupied by the seniors in the second year. There were no new students at all. But now, Zhou Hao had actually killed his way out of the encirclement and reached 93rd place. This junior is a little impressive. A beautiful girl blinked her beautiful big eyes and became interested in Zhou Hao. Humph! With such a sudden increase in points, it's obvious that he's lucky. His true strength might only be so-so. The boy beside the girl snorted and was very displeased with Zhou Hao. There are more than 300 new students this time. To be able to stand out from these people, he's still quite impressive. The others relied on their guesses on Zhou Hao, and Bai Bingbing had witnessed everything with her own eyes. Zhou Hao was really too lucky. The sensory grenade that everyone thought was extremely useless was simply too useful at such an occasion. Zhou Hao had only used 4 sensory grenades and had already killed his way into the 93rd place. If other martial artists on the rankings knew that Zhou Hao had made the rankings like this, they would definitely be furious. Looks like I have to get these foreign races to work together next. Zhou Hao started to get excited. Although with his strength, he could still easily take first place on the rankings without relying on any special methods. However, he was here to test his technological weapons. If there was no need, he naturally did not need to use his strength. What are you doing? Zhou Hao had just finished processing some of the relatively good materials around him when he looked at Bai Bingbing and asked curiously. Now, there was an additional work desk in front of Bai Bingbing. She placed some bombs and some other chemical materials on the work table. The Bai family behind Bai Bingbing and Bai Yanran was clearly extraordinary. Otherwise, Bai Bingbing would not have brought such a work desk with her. I want to modify some stuff and make a few sensory grenades. Some martial artists had special physiques, some martial artists had outstanding talent in cultivation techniques, and some martial artists cultivated secret techniques very quickly. Some martial artists' talent was in weapon manufacturing. For example, despite being a girl, Bai Bingbing could already be considered a weapon expert. Hearing Bai Bingbing's words, Zhou Hao was somewhat surprised, but he did not disturb her and just watched quietly. Not long after, Bai Bingbing really made a few sensory grenades. Indeed, there were always outstanding people in every field. See you later, hehe. After modifying the sensory grenade, Bai Bingbing immediately prepared to replicate Zhou Hao's success and collect points. Looking in the direction Bai Bingbing left, Zhou Hao chuckled and did not care. Not long after, Bai Bingbing indeed began to think of ways to attract the surrounding foreign races. The strength of these foreign races was ordinary, but there were many of them and their intelligence was not high. As long as she could attract all of them together, a single sensory grenade would be able to kill a large number of them. Shouldn't this be considered cheating? On the observation platform, Instructor Yang Hui and the others looked down helplessly. Chapter 310, Accidentally, her points soared again. Because Zhou Hao's points growth was too fast and violent, Yang Hui and the others specially rushed to the nearby observation platform to check. Only then did he know that Zhou Hao's points were obtained with technological weapons. Of course not. This is a real battlefield. No matter what technique you use, as long as you can kill the enemy, it can't be considered cheating. In fact, there is no such thing as cheating on the battlefield. After an instructor asked, another female instructor immediately said. After she finished speaking, everyone nodded. Of course, we also didn't expect someone to use a sensory grenade to kill these ordinary foreign races. The price of the sensory grenade is not cheap. Although the results of the battle are not bad now, without the points reward, it will definitely be a loss. As Zhou Hao's points were still increasing, an older instructor hit the nail on the head. In the forest, Zhou Hao was still using the sensory grenade. Zhou Hao had long known that Yang Hui and the instructors from the other elite bases were looking at him, but he couldn't be bothered. In this place, other martial artists only received two types of rewards, points and foreign race materials. However, he was different. When he killed these foreign races, his luck points were also constantly increasing. The rate of growth was not bad. At Zhou Hao's figure that was traveling through 12th spatial rift suddenly stopped. His communication bracelet vibrated just now and he received the latest news. Seems like it's the reward for this training. Zhou Hao took a look and lost interest. His main goal in coming to the 12th spatial rift this time was to enter the spatial rift and kill to his heart's content. But now, it seemed that he did not have the chance to kill to his heart's content. Wow! Heavens, the rewards this time are actually so generous. Compared to Zhou Hao's indifference, the other 1,000+ elite students were so excited that they were about to go crazy. The rewards for this training had exceeded everyone's expectations. There are so many rewards this time. Su Ling was a martial artist from a cultivation family, but at this moment, she could not help but exclaim. The rewards this time were really too generous. This is a joint training organized by the 7 elite bases after all. Looks like the 7 elite bases have really invested heavily. Yunyan smiled bitterly and felt very regretful. Sigh. I don't have any hope. I wonder if Zhou Hao can get it. Yunyan was rather envious of Zhou Hao. However, Zhou Hao's ranking was also somewhat close to falling out now. He had already reached the 99th place. That's right. The martial artists in the top 100 can obtain a master-level cultivation technique and a master-level cultivation gift bag. This master-level cultivation gift bag basically contains all the cultivation resources of the master level. A single cultivation gift bag can create a master. Su Ling's words were very shocking. A master-level martial artist was very rare anywhere. However, this master-level cultivation gift bag contained all the cultivation resources of the master level. With these cultivation resources, it meant that it was only a matter of time before one became a master. The master-level cultivation techniques and cultivation gift bags are still fine. With our family background, these are not very precious. However, if you can enter the top 20, the rewards will be very terrifyingly powerful. The martial artists in the top 20 can obtain a Grand Master level cultivation technique and a Grand Master level cultivation resource gift bag. As Yunyan spoke, her eyes were already shining. Although she also came from a cultivation family, she was not a direct descendant like Su Ling. She still had to worry about cultivation resources. In the Yun family, there were also other descendants. She did not have many cultivation resources at all. As a result, she yearned for these cultivation resources very much. That's right. If you can get into the top 3, you will even be able to obtain a supernatural cultivation technique and a cultivation resource for the lower 3rd grade supernatural level. Su Ling also said enviously. A cultivation technique at the supernatural level and a cultivation resource gift bag at the supernatural level were also very attractive to her. Unfortunately, the second-year students in the 7 elite bases were all at the Grandmaster level or even peak-level Grandmasters. Under such circumstances, Yunyan and the others naturally did not have the slightest chance. Bai Bingbing circled around Zhou Hao's location and returned. Zhou Hao, let's discuss something. Bai Bingbing was almost depressed to death. Her self-made sensory grenades were not as useful as star ring technologies. Its lethality was at least 5 times worse than the sensory grenades of star ring technology. What is it? Zhou Hao was somewhat curious as to why Bai Bingbing had returned after running around. Sell me all the sensory grenades and points you currently have. After I enter the top 100, I can lend you a copy of the master level cultivation technique. I can also give you a third of the items in the master level cultivation bag. After Bai Bingbing finished speaking, she looked at Zhou Hao expectantly.